All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's take a trip
Hello.
back to Victorian eras today on Fatherly Fandom. What are we doing today, Matt?
Today we're watching Poor Things. Well, we watched Poor
Poor,
Things. We're talking about Poor
poor,
Things.
poor thing.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite the ride.
It
So stick
is.
around. It's going to get weird.
It is. Hit that intro.
This is the way. This is the way.
Woo, boy, I gotta tell you, man. So we had our our spoiler-free at the theater reviews of this, so you guys can check that out on our YouTube channel. If you guys haven't seen it already, go over there, check those out. If you haven't watched the movie, go there, and you'll get our initial reactions. Matt's in the lovely daytime. I'm in the dark as hell
Yeah, and
nighttime. Last
e-
showing of the freaking movie.
even though each of them is only a minute long response of our reaction, I do think that we bring up some pretty solid points about what you will experience at this movie, and so take those with a heavy dose of reality, and think like, would I want to see a film as they've described?
Yeah.
If you were interested in
Mhm.
considering our recommendation.
Yeah, this movie is not for the faint of heart. You.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're gonna watch it, yeah, get ready.
I can't
Don't
wait to
take your
talk about
grandma.
this.
Don't
Yeah.
take your grandma. That's all I can
Yeah.
say. So so that said, we're gonna go ahead and skip our spoiler-free review for this episode because we've done our at the theater reviews. Basically, what we are gonna do from now on with our Oscar Odyssey Film Flight whatever we're calling it, the the
Yeah.
longest
It's a
title in the
mouthful.
world. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But what we're doing with that is if it's at the theater, we're going to do an at the theater reaction, and we'll put that up as shorts on our channel. And then we'll do the live stream like we're doing right now. But if it's something at home that we are watching here, yeah, you don't really want to see our living rooms or anything like that. So what we're going to do is a spoiler-free review on those ones, the things that we watch at home. Because there's some things that are going to come up on like Apple
Hmm.
Plus, Netflix has one, so we're gonna catch some things
Prime.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next
So,
thing up is Oppenheimer, and that's definitely not in theaters anymore, so we're gonna be watching that at home. So that's gonna be one where we will have a spoiler-free section here, but
yeah.
we'll forego that. Any other things we want to discuss before we get into the movie?
No, but on Oppenheimer's note, real quick, I'll say that I
Old
am
Appy.
so, yeah, I'm proud of the Academy along with Barbie, where a lot of times we will see the Oscar nominations for Best Picture of the Year being films that just came out over the last few months,
Yeah.
and I think, man, there's been some great releases that have some movies come out in like February or April, and those movies rarely get any kind of notice when it comes to award
Yeah.
season. But we got two of them from the summer, so I'm looking forward to
There we
reviewing
go.
Oppenheimer with you on Friday.
Man, that is a great point, and it's strategic like that. So we get a lot of this stuff
Yeah,
right around the end of the year when it comes to the more artsy, philosophical, intellectual pieces out there that usually end up winning awards. So,
yeah.
Keith is with us. Thank you for joining us, Keith. He says, "Let's go." It's
All
okay.
right.
We're on it. We're on it. We're here.
Yes.
We're going. Not your
Yeah.
status quo. Great to have you guys here. Check out their channel if you haven't. Poor Tings is one I really want to see. Just need to find the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
brace yourself. Once again, don't take your grandma.
Right.
Or take her.
No,
She might like it. I don't know. I don't know your
I don't
grandma.
know. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there might be some grandmas out there that would love this, especially if they've got their hearing aids set real low. So,
Real low. Real low. Might make them blow up after a while.
yeah,
Set
jeez,
too high.
I
Oh,
can't wait
there's
to
a
get into
correction. Not
that.
to. Thanks. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I can't wait to get into that too because funny about that. So we will get into it. So, guys, get ready. We're gonna spoil the whole damn thing. So if you haven't
Mhm.
seen it, yeah, just go ahead and stop the recording or stop the feed right now. Come back later. Visit us
Yeah,
on YouTube.
there
We'll have it posted up.
there are a few things with the ending and the nature of some of the characters that I'm sure we will discuss. So it really
Mhm.
will give away some pretty significant plot points here. If you don't want to hear those, yeah, just watch us
Yeah.
later on. So.
Get us later on. All right, let's get countdown. Woo! 2, 1.
And 0.
Spoiler-filled review. Let's get into it.
All
All
right, how
right,
about all
Matt.
those character deaths? No, I'm kidding. Um,
Everyone died in the movie. It was
yeah,
crazy. Nutso.
it was a nutso
Man.
movie for sure, though.
Yep.
Um,
So Poor
so
Things,
yeah, Poor
directed by
Things. Yorgos
Yorgos
Lanthimos.
Lanthimos. Yes,
Yeah,
Matt.
I yes. I had to look it up
Thanks.
myself and hear some people pronounce it. Some interviews to
hmm
figure it out. But
And
yes, he
I
is of
haven't
Greek
actually.
origin. That's the
Cool.
origin of that name.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I haven't. That very interesting, Matt. I haven't actually seen any of his other films or anything. Have you watched any of his other filmography?
So
Things he's
that's
directed before?
I always try to take a different approach in my research here, and I hadn't seen any of his films either, so I binged them
Yeah.
all last
Oh
week.
God.
Yeah, and it
You got
was
time.
it was quite the ride. I didn't take any. So, like I mentioned, he is a Greek filmmaker, and he lives with his wife currently in Athens. Grew up in Athens, and his first couple of films are Greek in origin. So, of course, they're speaking
Or
the native
subtitled and
tongue.
everything.
Yes. So I didn't
You
watch any of
learned Greek
those. Well,
watching these
they're
as well with your.
they're they're a little bit more, I would say, geared towards a Greek audience. So you kind of got to
Mhm.
understand the culture, the political, all that kind of stuff a little bit more. So I stuck with the films that are in English. I watched, let's see, The Lobster, The Favorite, and
That was his big one. Yep.
yeah, the killing of a sacred deer over the course of last week, and just to kind of get to know him. Some of the things that I had issue with in this film, I was like, was that just a directorial decision of his, or was that
Mhm.
something that maybe came up just around this film and its
Yeah.
circumstances? So I wanted to get a
Hmm.
feel for this guy's flavor and figure out, if that's just how his films go. And by and large, I would say that it pretty much is. I think, honestly, that this film is probably my favorite of all the ones that I've seen
Oh,
of his so far. So, yeah. But
very interesting.
no, yeah, he's got that interesting style.
hmm
As Chris and I'm sure observed, and the rest of you out there will when you watch the movie. He loves the wide angle lenses. He loves the fish eyes. He
The
loves,
fishbowl lens. Yeah.
yeah, he loves those tracking shots that follow someone down a
Yeah.
hallway, and
See, kind of like
uh,
this.
yes,
You
yeah.
see this
So
little shot right here. That was a lot of the movie in a
yeah, which
nutshell.
this is actually unique to Poor Things. As far as the films that I've seen of his, he didn't
hmm
have these sort of pinhole camera shots in any of the rest of them. And I watched an interview with him, and he was talking about why he chose some of the camera angles and lenses and all that stuff that he did. And he said this was to make us feel like observers, like we were
hmm
surveilling Bella as she goes through this story, and almost as if the professor had like hidden cameras set up throughout the house to observe his experiment and collect data for his results. So
hmm
I mean, I guess I kind of get that. I don't know. Did
I
it
get it.
land for you?
I mean, it was a choice. So, yeah, I don't know if it
Yeah,
landed or not, but it was definitely something that he highlighted throughout the movie.
yeah.
And
I
this was definitely a passion project for Yorgos Lanthimos. because he's wanted to do this for quite a while, and he talked to the author. So this is based off of the novel Poor Things from
Oh man,
1992 by Alasdair Gray.
that the whole title is, do you have the full book title?
I don't. Why
It's
don't you go and say
immense.
it?
So, Poor Things, episodes from the early life of Archibald McCandless, MD, Scottish public health officer.
hmm So there you go. And
So,
like the movie kind of takes us into like Victorian era England, but the book is primarily set in Scotland, which is one of the
mhm.
gripes apparently that a lot of people have with the movie, is because it takes out a lot of the Scotland atmosphere
Yeah,
from the story.
Scottish author, Scottish
hmm
settings, all of that
Yeah.
was pretty much removed.
But
So,
he got the go ahead. Basically, Yorgos Lanthimos got the go ahead from the writer to
mhm.
make all these changes. He gave him the okay with the screenplay and everything like that. He didn't actually get to see it be made. He died before this film was made. But he's definitely
Yeah.
wanted it for a long time. And after the success of his last film, he was able to make what he wanted, and this is what he chose. So,
Yeah, yeah. So, like you said, passion project, and I think that
mhm.
the techniques and the things that did work in his previous films, and I say did work, I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff in his previous films that a lot of people liked. So it's really kind of what your own tastes are, as far as his visual flair, his storytelling style. He gets into a lot of absurdist things, and I think he
Yeah,
took the pieces of all those things that worked the best for the most people and put them into Poor Things.
yeah,
So,
I can see it. Yeah.
yeah,
Very visually creative person. That's very clear whenever you're watching this movie.
yeah.
so,
Some of it,
so
I don't know. Go ahead, Chris.
no, go for it.
Some of it, I think we're meant to follow Bella on this journey as her brain grows up, right? She has an
hmm
infantile brain that's developing into maturity, even though she has a fully grown body. So I think some of the visuals and some of the camera angles were meant to mimic
hmm
the experiences of a child. You know, things go from black and white to color.
Yep.
Things go from very tight shots to wide shots, and
hmm
those types of things. I
Oh,
did.
for sure. They
We're,
do that throughout the
yeah,
film. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And it's a visual storytelling element about her growth in consciousness. So yeah, you could definitely see them do that. And they played that on many aspects in the film. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So getting into the plot a little bit.
Do you
You
want
know,
to, can we take a moment here?
yeah, yeah,
Because
sure.
we used to do this all the time here at Fatherly Fandom, so I did bring it back. I brought out the Rotten Tomatoes score for this,
Oh
if you guys
yeah,
want.
I'd love to hear this.
So,
What do we got?
boom! So,
Yeah,
92% from critics with 346 reviews altogether. 320 rated as fresh, 23 rated it rotten. So when you get a score like that, that means that these people have given it a 60 or above. So that 92% is 60 or above for those
yeah,
critics. The audience score is a little bit lower. It's at 79%, and it's 1,000 plus reviews. And they give it a 4 out of 5 average rating. And I kind of went through a lot of the. I like the audience scores more than the critics. The critics, you know, it's their job, and they see a lot of movies, and they get to point out a lot of really good stuff, but at the same time I think that they lose something that most of us as a general audience can pick up with
yeah.
movies. So I
I
really
kind
wanted
of
to dive into that.
I equate it a little bit to like wine connoisseurs. You know,
Yeah,
you taste a ton of wine and you start to develop a really highly sensitive palate.
true.
What's cheap, what's expensive.
hmm
And I think, like you said, they see so many movies that after a while you want to be surprised. You want to see something unexpected. And
Yeah.
this type of movie definitely gives you that.
Oh yeah, it does. And so going through and combing through some of those audience reviews, the one big thing that came out of all of those, and over again, you see the buzzword, like lots of people remarked that this was a strange film. Like, this is
Yeah.
strange. But at the same time, people were very captivated by the performances and the visuals of this as well. And so I tend to agree with most of that outlook. I was like, this is a very strange movie, a little cumbersome
Yeah.
too at times as you're watching the movie, but visually very striking, very beautifully done. The colors are rich and wonderful, and we'll get into that a little bit later too about why it looks so amazing. And yeah, just the story and the characters and the actors are doing a phenomenal job with these roles. Emma Stone gets a very creative and unique role that we
Hmm.
really haven't seen in a character in a story ever. So she's able to freaking exercise her actor's chops to the T with this role
Yeah.
and does a phenomenal job with it. So yeah, and so I would very much agree with a lot of the general audience when it comes to that. Very strange, but a lot of good beauty and beautiful
Hmm.
things inside Poor Things.
Now, what do you think about, and it's hard to judge the two, but Lily Gladstone versus Emma Stone at this point, to me, in my mind, if you're going to pick Best Actress, with the films that we've seen so far, it's got to be one of them. And it's really hard because Emma Stone displays
Yeah,
a huge range in this movie, but she has the
she does.
opportunity to do so. You know,
Yeah,
you don't have a whole lot of films that take you from being literally a baby in an
I know,
adult's
right?
costume to yeah, to being a fully mature adult over the course of, 90 minutes to 3 hours or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And Lily Gladstone's story is obviously completely different than that. So how do you judge the
True.
two?
How do you
Like,
judge it too?
who did the better job? Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a hard scale to judge on. Emma Stone, I think that is very close. Like for me personally, and that's all it's very subjective. This is all opinion and
Right.
what we like out of these performances too. But still, for me, I still think that Lily Gladstone has it. I think she still has it. Emma Stone, not as much, even though she did a phenomenal job in this role, and I think that she should win some accolades for it. I think
Yeah.
overall, Lily Gladstone needs to go home with the award in Killers of the
I,
Flower
I'm so torn because I loved Emma Stone in Birdman. Like,
Moon.
even with the small character part that she has in that film,
Birdman.
right? She does a great job at playing like sort of this heartfelt millennial that is angry with her father, has something to say, and when in the few scenes that she's in, she really, really nails it. And it started showing that, wow, she is a very, very talented person. And then this was just sort of the pinnacle, like
Hmm.
what can she rise to? And I think that everything she's got is on full display here. It was just uncanny seeing her as like the toddler. You totally knew which stage she was in as the scenes went on. Like,
Yeah,
oh, she's
yeah, you
starting
did.
to figure out language. Just like, I don't know if she
Yeah, with
watched
her
tons of
language.
baby videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, she hit it so accurately. I mean, like you said, strange film, strange circumstances, but to take what those were and craft a real live
Hmm.
person out of that, um, takes a lot of talent.
Yeah, and
I
I
have my
gotta say
lamp turned
too,
off here.
like for the first part, it was scary. Like her character was
Yeah,
scary, and I equated this in my short. I very much equated her character to Frankenstein's monster. It's the same type of premise. Like this dead
yeah,
individual's brought back to life with a baby brain, and they have no societal norms whatsoever. And like you see her like stabbing that cadaver body as Willem Dafoe's character
yeah.
is working on one of his, and it's just like, oh my god. And like she squeezed the frog and gets absolute joy from killing this frog in the beginning. I'm like,
Which
whoa.
that in particular seems to be a
Hmm.
directorial choice, because in each and every one of his movies that I've seen so far, an animal
Yeah.
gets it in like a really brutal way. It is the weirdest thing. Like, what is this
Hmm.
guy's deal with animals? At the very
It just
beginning of
hates animals, I guess.
at the very beginning of The Lobster, it's literally like this long tracking shot of somebody driving in a car, driving in a car, driving in a car. Just minutes and minutes and
Hmm.
minutes go by. And then suddenly they stop, screech to a halt, get out. And this lady just blows away a donkey in the countryside. You're like, what?
Okay.
But there's always some kind of poor animal brutality in all of his films. Like, that is just, that's really weird. But
It's a
yeah,
choice. It
yeah.
is a
So at least
choice.
the we got just the momentary, and poor frog, but yeah.
Hmm.
There
Yep.
just had to be something in there. That couldn't have been a editing room floor scene. It had to be, nope,
Yeah.
she kills a frog.
Right.
So, not to mention
So
stabbing the guy's eyes out. Yeah, that was crazy.
yeah, right. That was crazy. So yeah, back to this film. Like her whole performance throughout. Yeah, as she grows, and you understand that every influence in her life is trying to trap her in one way or another, or trying to manipulate her, even though it's like,
Yeah.
seen as a sign of love. Even like Godwin, he like has her call him God. It's like the whole time, Willem
Mm,
Dafoe's character. And he's she's an experiment to him, but like he grows fond of her and everything, but he
yeah.
does let her go. Then he gives her the money that stitches in her clothes. But then, oh gosh, let's get to Mark Ruffalo. What did we think of Mark Ruffalo as
Man, I
Duncan
thought
Wedderburn?
I thought he turned it right on. I mean, he from the moment he enters the scene, you can tell this guy has got
Is
nefarious
sleazy.
machination going
Yeah.
right. He's got
Yeah.
all sorts of sleazy thoughts
Ugh.
going on in his mind, and he
Yeah.
plays that. Even the little the one of the scenes that I love, just the little gesture that he does. He like they're on the cruise ship, and he comes out onto the deck and he's like, hey, let's go take in some air, and he kind of gives this little wink to her like, oh, let's go have sex some more, and I mean, he's not the character is not being as subtle as he thinks, but Mark Ruffalo is
No.
playing that like he's that
Mm.
sleazy, that he's really not worried about
Yeah.
these new friends of Bella's being off put by his presence. He wants the control
No.
back. He wants her back under his leash, so to speak. And
Hmm.
yeah, reminds me, the whole thing's like a Pinocchio type story, and reminds me of,
Very
like, what
true.
is it, the fox and the
Hmm.
marionette guy. I can't remember exactly what their names are from the fairy tale, but yeah. So he
Hmm.
played that um, to its pinnacle as well, I think, in
Yeah.
this movie.
I gotta tell you, I could have gone my entire life though without having seen Mark Ruffalo and Emma Stone in some of those scenes. Like
Oh,
so,
I thought it was
let's.
hilarious. Like the
You
one the
thought it was
one
great?
shot, I thought it was hilarious. Like the shot of him, they're having sex and he has a corset on, like, that was not removed, and I just thought that was like, of course, because the sex scenes,
Hmm.
they're all done in sort of montage, right? It's not really
Yeah.
meant to be titillating or scandalous, I
No,
guess, or
none
whatever.
none of this stuff is.
Yeah, it's graphic, and it's just
Hmm.
meant to me to be a little bit like formula, like, oh, she started to discover pleasure, and so she does what any kid does and eats every candy that she can get.
Hmm.
So
And she does
and
that too. Yeah.
yeah, right. So yeah,
And
there
it
was a
just
lot
felt
of it.
like there was. Whew. And it just seemed like, the movie in itself seemed very raw in a way. And that's
Mhm.
the best way for me to describe it. Not even just with the sex scenes, that like, them doing surgery on Godwin's little tumor and
Yeah, you're
everything, and
seeing
just showing the
close-ups of the
incision
knife,
close up,
and yeah.
just all the little details of just reality and the ugliness of the world, but beauty in
Yeah.
there too. It's crazy. He was able to get both of those sides, but yeah, just ruminating on it a little bit more, it's like, yeah, it was just all raw, very raw and dirty, like
Uh-huh.
so, just gritty, dirty, raw, and it's
It was
all
kind of
showcased in
like
this movie, which is
you
probably what it
take
was like in Victorian era. So,
yeah, I mean, it probably was, um I think the stuff that was less left out is the massive spread of disease that comes
mm.
from Victorian era prostitution. Syphilis was a
Yeah.
huge problem back then,
Oh yeah.
but we just kind of gloss over that, But
Well, she did say
anyway,
she would get tested before she got
she
married.
did. Yeah, they
So,
threw in the one line. I felt like that was a thank you for smoking line. Like, they had
yeah.
a production meeting, like, well, what are we going to do to explain? She
Yeah.
just has a massive amount of sexual
Yeah.
partners throughout the movie.
Mhm.
We'll have one of them mention she gets tested for disease,
Yeah.
Okay. But
That's true.
yeah, so no, I totally agree that there was so much of this that was meant to be gritty and raw, but at the same time, the landscapes, the settings
Mhm.
have this very fairy tale look. They are not
Yeah.
accurate at all to real
No.
life or the time period. It's like a steampunk version of it. You know,
Yeah.
it to me it seemed very Burton-esque. What did you think?
Yeah. And I kind of remarked something similar in my short as well. It was very Tim Burton-esque, very
Yeah,
steampunk. Apparently that wasn't from the book either. This was a choice that the director
right.
made as well to make it that way. And I thought that element of the movie actually worked. I very much liked the unique eccentricities of the world
Hmm.
that they built out, and just the set pieces, and it was all on set and everything too. So, which is really cool. Oh, we lost Matt. Yeah. Oh, he's back. He got taken
Yeah.
out.
But
Welcome
no,
back.
yeah, I'm glad to be here. No, I think like if you think back to like visiting an interesting place in your childhood, most people would say, the memory itself is much more fantastic than returning to the place and seeing what it's really like,
Mhm.
and so I think that's again what they were trying to mimic here is she's looking
Yeah.
at all the different places that she goes in the childhood mind. So it's the fantastic form of it,
Mhm.
So, and that starts to be pulled back again as she grows older.
Yeah, it's
But
true. And it's very bright in the beginning,
mhm.
very colorful, and then it gets duller and there's darker tones throughout, even with her wardrobe as well and what she's wearing throughout the movie as well. She's
Yeah,
very much Victorian era from the beginning, and then she branches out and does all the fluffy blue and bright stuff, and then it tones down and slims out, and when she becomes her own person and is more independent, she decides what she gets to wear, and it gets darker and
yeah,
more form fitting. It's really cool how they portrayed all that.
right.
So yeah, good look.
But let's talk about that soundtrack.
Okay, yeah, you loved it, didn't you?
I I hate to use the word hate with anything having to do with art because it's like you said subjective,
Yep,
but I hated this
apparently.
soundtrack.
So
It's just
let's
uh
just bring up the guy who was responsible for this. So the film was scored by pop musician Jerkston Fendrix, and this is
yeah.
his first feature composition debut. And apparently, Matt, this is nominated for Best Original
I
Score at
know.
the
I
Academy
saw that.
Awards. Yeah.
Like who could give
So
this a second listen?
somebody liked it, but I tend to agree with you too. It was very screeching and
Oh,
off-putting. But again, like, and I mentioned this in my short too, I think that was intentional because, most of the
yeah.
movie was trying for this off-putting effect as well, and to make you feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Yeah, this is supposed to let us live in uncomfortableness, throughout this movie. and
Mhm.
the music definitely portrays that. But not a fan, are you?
Not a fan at all. And, again, I wanted to see if this was a trait of
Hmm.
the director's style, because the music producers, the composers, they're given direction as well,
Yeah.
as to what the director
Right.
would like as far as the soundtrack goes. And so, taking the films that I watched back, The Favorite, which was his most recent film before this, aside from a little short that he did, but it has more of a traditional sort of string quartet, orchestral style to the music of that film. It's another Victorian era story about two women competing for um, the attention of the queen. So I was like, okay, well, there's been a film there where it didn't sound all screechy and raw like that. So, what is there to say? Well, going further back, both the lobster and definitely the killing of a sacred deer are
Yeah.
full of this kind of stuff. It's not as intense, but I didn't see any of those movies in theaters, obviously. So
Yeah.
when I was watching this movie in the movie theater, I thought they have to be doing something wrong with the speaker system because it was so I was like losing it. I really, for the first time in my life, wanted to leave the theater because of the soundtrack. I really was like,
Wow.
I just don't know if I can make it all the way. And it just kept getting like more and more intense. And there was that scene where they're looking down on the impoverished people and the dead babies and stuff, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
just blasting. Literally,
Hmm.
people next to me. It was one of a really awkward seating. You go to the movie theater. A lot of the movie theaters have the option to pick your seat ahead of time. I
Yep.
booked my ticket a week ago before seeing the movie, and there was nobody sitting next to me. And people chose. Wasn't a populated theater. There was maybe five other people in there with me, and these two people sit like right next to me, and whatever, it's it was enjoyable hearing them though go through all the stuff. They were a talkative group, and so I got to hear them say what I was thinking basically, and this woman right next to me was just holding her ears and like, swaying around and
Ah.
just could not stand it. And I'm like, I thank God I'm not the only one. I mean, this is way, way too much. I get what you're talking about. It was intentional, but at the same time, it was torturous. I mean, I don't see that as being necessary at all. You can make your point, but not
Yeah.
drive people crazy.
Yep. So
So,
sorry, Jerkskin Fendrix,
well, I think he
the
I
guy
think he
right there.
was told by Mr. Lanthimos to do
Oh,
this.
he's like, not my problem.
Yeah,
I'm just doing what
like
I was told. I was paid to do this.
I really think that's what it was.
And
But
you think
that's
he's
one
gonna
guy's
get
opinion.
best original score though? Is he's gonna take home the win
Maybe for
in
taking direction
March?
as well as he did. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, I was lucky. Like there was maybe two other people in the theater I was in, and way in the back, so it was
Yeah.
nearly empty. So glad that it was. Just this is I
Yeah.
so what do we for American Fiction, there was a bunch of older couples that were watching it with me, so I had a lot of them next to me.
Yeah.
This one would have been a little bit more
To have an
awkward,
older
I would
couple
say.
right
I had a
next to
couple of
you.
older couples and the awkward glances we'd be giving each other during a
Yeah.
lot of the less than savory moments of the film. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
who knows?
who
There
knows?
was there was like
Kind of glad I was
audible
alone.
laughter through some of that.
Yeah.
Like the guy crawling along the floor in the
Oh,
bordello.
yeah.
Just,
All the bordello scenes and all the different, and okay, so this is my main gripe with the film is there is not one. I mean, you could probably say Max a little bit, but I wouldn't even say he is that redeemable. There's not one redeemable male character in this entire story. And maybe that's
yeah.
just how it was in the Victorian era, that every man was a scumbag But even your priest is not on the up and up apparently back
Right.
then.
No,
It's just
we've been getting a lot of that this last year, right? I mean, Barbie, I
yeah.
don't think there was a redeemable male character in
Alan,
there either. Oh
Alan,
yes,
the
Alan, that's
star of
right.
the show, Michael
He just
Cera.
wants, yeah, but he wants to leave the entire world, you know.
I mean, I don't
um,
blame him. I don't
yeah.
blame the dude.
By the
Have you seen that
way,
commercial too for
yes, I
CeraVe?
was gonna say, yeah, I saw it at the Super Bowl yesterday, and I'm
Yeah,
like, oh man, if you're
that was
listening out there, Michael
perfect.
Cera, pitch
Uh,
perfect.
I love you, man. Michael
Yeah,
Cera, you make my heart happy. That was so
right,
perfect.
right. Should
It's
see
as
if
if you
he'll
didn't
comment at the
know.
bottom.
This
What
is
do you think of
mine.
your super bad co-star, Emma
Yeah.
Stone, in
Yeah.
Poor Things? But
Yep.
yeah, the soundtrack was doing its job. Um, the sex scenes were, I think, again, utilitarian, showing the sort of hyper reality, you could
Mm.
say, of what it would be like. I'll say that, like, um, some movies that portray prostitution, it's more like a glamorized version of it, and
Mm-hmm.
this has, like, not the most attractive people coming to the bordello. It's rich people. It's people that just, it seem like they don't have time for cultivating a relationship, and
Yeah.
they don't have any interest in it, or they just want to control women, or all those sorts of things. The
Yeah.
guy with the
They
hook
want to
hand,
show their young men, their young
right.
boys, how
Oh
things are
gosh,
done.
I've totally
That was
forgot about
rough.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
could
oh,
have scrubbed that from my brain forever, but
seriously.
I
I
know.
know. Right?
And you wonder how those scenes go in reality. They really have those kids sitting there, or are those kids like
It had to have been cut
at
away
least
and like,
18?
yep,
Yeah. CGI kids.
something.
That's what we're hoping for. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I say. The sex scenes were by no means uncomfortable because of, seeing something that is meant to arouse the audience. It's meant to make the audience throw
Yeah.
up,
That was not
if
the point.
anything
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Like I said,
But
like this movie actively tries to make you feel uncomfortable, and that is one big
yeah,
way that they were able to do that. Kind of showing, letting you, especially because, me and you, we're men, we do
yeah,
not live the female perspective. And so for us, we get a little insight of that. We get to take off our lens as males and look at this through the female perspective. And in a way, it shows you how dangerous and manipulative and violent,
hmm,
people outside forces are. And that's how you got to feel a lot of the time as a woman. I hate that that's part of society and culture, especially back then too. But
yeah,
it does offer you a glimpse into that and that uncomfortableness, and so I think that it has some worth there. But did they have
hmm,
to really go as in depth in showing us as much as they did? I don't really think so. I think that they could have left a lot of that out, showed a little bit,
yeah,
and it would have still given you as much of the impact as you needed with this woman who was experiencing life for the first time and growing in consciousness. There could have
yeah,
been other ways of doing this, I think.
yeah. I think that um, the Pinocchio Frankenstein type of mashup here
Yeah.
worked, and I think that because Mr. Lanthimos and I forget the screenwriter. Anyway, they worked on the script together,
Hmm.
and so I know that in interviews, articles that I've read with great writers, they talk about how after a while the story and the characters sort of take over. So it could have been a case where they're following the plot beats of this book, and some of the gritty visuals that you get just come from putting their characters in that scene. Like, okay, in this scene, Bella has an infantile brain. She gets into the surgical room. what happens, and in this case you
Yeah.
got the gritty eye stabbing scene and playing with the corpse's genitals and all that stuff, and just
Yeah.
it's off-putting, but maybe they just wrote themselves into that scenario. And I mean, I guess, yeah, cutting it out or leaving it in, how much do you put in? Those are all choices for more experienced people than you or I guess. But
Yes.
when it comes down to appreciating the artwork, it is on the audience to say whether or not that was too much. And I agree with you. For my personal taste, it was too much. But
Same. Yeah.
yeah,
Same. But what did you think? Like William Dafoe did a great job with this, and I was
yeah,
reading about his what he had to do to go through with all the prosthetics and everything that he had to wear for that, right? And so
oh,
it took him what, like it was like 6 hours of work to
yeah.
get all that stuff off, and like and 2 hours to get it off at the
Well,
end of
so
the
they
day or
said,
something.
right, 4 hours in the morning,
Four
he'd get
hours.
up
Okay, so
before
6 hours
everybody
altogether.
else. Exactly. Yeah. Um, just to look like a scarred up Frankenstein's monster himself.
Yeah, yeah. So crazy. So he, I think as well as the character of Max, played by Ramy Youssef, they actually went to mortician school and everything to kind of
Yeah.
learn that trade too. So they actually went and did all that stuff too, and just the work that they put in there for that and for their few little things. What did you
Yeah.
think? Like and his character, especially Godwin's character here, very tragic to me because he
Hmm.
grew up with a father that would experiment on him, cause him a lot of trauma and cause him great suffering, and like he's kind of took it in a stoicism kind of way where it's like, oh, he's just trying to do this, and so this is just
Yeah.
the scientific way of figuring these things out. Now I have to hook myself up to a tube to digest things with gastric juices from outside and blow a
Uh,
bubble. Yeah, I know. I was like, what the hell is that?
I know.
So, but the movie did a great job of explaining it, because if they didn't, I'd have been like, what the? So,
Yeah. And same thing,
at
he's
least
got
I
that
understood.
weird Tim Burton contraption behind him.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
basically a dialysis machine, it kind of
Mm-hmm.
sounded like.
Yeah. Yep.
But
It was interesting.
it was an interesting part for him to play. He's not
Mm-hmm.
afraid of these strange characters
No,
or
he's not.
characters that have, facial appliances applied, or characters that have
Yeah.
very, very tragic pasts to draw off of. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that you can see, I think he did a great job at subtlety in this, but I think you can see his character arc as he goes through. Eventually he calls his father a fool or an idiot or something like
Mm-hmm.
that at the end of the
Yeah.
movie. And you're like, finally, he sort of admits that, yeah, he
Yeah.
was he was highly abused as a child. So,
Yeah, and he does have sort of a redemption arc when he's dying and everything, and he brings Bella back and explains exactly what happened and everything, asks
yeah,
for her forgiveness, and and eventually Bella comes back and she's like, "I smelled the formaldehyde, and I know what I want to do with the rest of my life." So, playing that
yeah.
father-esque role and being a great influence on his quasi daughter, I guess, in the weirdest situation ever. you know it's
Yeah,
like, okay.
right. And parts of that, to me, reminded me of Guillermo del Toro's films.
Yeah. A
It
little bit of
felt
that
like
in
a
there.
real, yeah, a mashup. Like, did you see Shape of Water? Kind of some of that in there, and a little bit of Tim Burton and a little bit of this
Mhm.
guy's own style. It was definitely a modern fairy tale if there ever was one. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
is this guy's film. So,
And I read too, the cinematographer on this drew a lot of inspiration from Dracula on
oh
this film.
yes,
I was like,
right,
Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I was
yeah,
like, and I was trying to piece that together. I don't see the connection between those two. I see a lot of Tim Burton in there, like
yeah.
we were talking about. But
So
maybe I have to go back to that movie because I wasn't picking up on that.
Right. So that was a movie that I saw as a teenager and then
Same.
revisited like I think a year ago.
Young Keanu
And
Reeves, Winona
young
Ryder.
Keanu
Yep.
Reeves, very
Mhm.
strange looking Gary Oldman.
Oh, Gary
um,
Oldman still kills it,
yeah, yeah,
literally.
he does. He really does. But no, so in rewatching it, it was kind of like what I was saying about going back to a childhood memory. I
Mhm.
remember that movie way different than whenever I
Yeah.
rewatched it. And I was like, oh wow, this is actually I don't know, this is definitely, it feels like a 90s or 80s type of film. And the cinematography, the just sort of almost vaudevillian type of way that the characters move around, and
Mhm.
it's like the visual style is sort of a joke almost throughout the entire thing. And like I remember it being scary as a kid, but it was not on second viewing. It was just like, oh man, this is this kind of this drama, it's going on, and I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me, rewatching Dracula was visually off-putting in the same way that this movie was. So I can kind of get a little bit of what they were going for in the sort of campy type of camera angles and whip arounds and all that sort of panning type shot stuff that they do in
Yeah.
both films. But it's also something that, again, Yorgos Lanthimos does in all of his films. So, it's just part of his preferential
Yeah.
style as well.
And if you were to categorize this movie in a certain genre, or how would you categorize what this movie is? Is this a comedy? Is this
Yeah,
a
right.
drama? Like what would we call it?
I would say that it's a dark comedy in the way that Edward
Same.
Scissorhands is.
Yeah.
You got the same thing, sort of Pinocchio tale with Edward Scissorhands, and he's dangerous, but he's childlike and doesn't know it, and he's released out into the real world, or the
Hmm.
Tim Burton version of the real world. There, a very sort of Stepford version of the real world. And what does he do in there? And he, of course, mischief ensues, right?
Hmm.
So I think that this is meant to be a black comedy
Hmm.
that is also a coming of age tale.
Yeah.
So, and
It
of course,
just
sexual liberation movie, women's liberation movie, all those types of things wrapped in there too.
yeah, and for me, like looking at it too, yeah, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does bring up a lot of intellectual points that are very interesting to see through into a story. So it's almost like a scientific experiment on its own as a story, the way it
Yeah,
plays out. Just like, and it sounds like the book and the title of the book is very similar to that. And maybe that was the perspective from the book as well. All this stuff being told from a very scientific point of view and an observational lens. So
yeah.
I kind of get that. So yeah, I would say dark comedy as well on this. But if we can go back to the visuals on this, I did look up this. I thought it was a really cool thing, and you probably saw this too, Matt. But the film itself was partially shot on Kodak's 35 millimeter Ektachrome color reversal motion picture film stock. So this is one of the
Okay.
first films that was able to do this. Oh, this information just blew Matt out of the water. Where'd he go?
Yeah, I don't
He
know why I
just
keep getting kicked out, and I'm not
he
touching
just
anything. So.
yeah. Thank you,
But
iPhone. So
yeah.
guys, you need to subscribe to the channel if you can. Give us a like because we need to start making money with this so we can buy Matt a computer, a dedicated computer, a real microphone, so he doesn't have to keep on using his cell phone and getting kicked off here. So
Yeah.
subscribe today, guys. Get us to 1,000 if you can. That'd be great if we get there. But yeah, this film stock, I thought it was really interesting, and this is one of the reasons why visually it looks as colorful and dynamic as it does. So when
Uh-huh.
I was looking up what the 35 millimeter Kodak Ektachrome color film reverse film stock is, is it's a 100-speed motion picture camera film that was intended for photography. So, it takes very picturesque photos, and under daylight illumination, and it provides an enhanced color saturation performance while maintaining neutral gray scales and accurate skin tone representations too. So, and if you look throughout the movie, that's one of the things that like that I was drawn to as well, is if you looked at like Emma Stone. I don't know if I can put up a picture here, scarfing down one of the
The
things.
tarts.
Yeah, the tarts. But looking at Emma Stone, her skin tone, it looks very like in person to me, and that's probably one of the reasons, is because of the film stock that they use. And a lot of the times, like you're watching a film, and people don't look like they do in real life, but this one, like,
Yeah.
it really did. It really contrasted that out, and I very much appreciated that aspect of this film as well. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think so too. I think that it reminded me of how far we've come since the Star Wars prequels. And what I mean by that is the prequels introduced us to the
Oh,
possibility of digital environments,
mm,
of full-on CG characters, and whether it worked for you in those films. From there, we've gotten things like Sin City, we've gotten things like this movie, where they are immersing their actors in nearly 100% digital environment, and it's not always meant to be a version of reality. And I think it serves this film very well, and that
mhm,
we have this hyper reality going around those characters. There's no way to really do that other than to immerse them in a CG environment. But from a storytelling standpoint, it works. It amplifies the emotional journey and intellectual journey that Bella is going through. Like we've already talked about with the colors and with
mhm,
the imagery and stuff like that. So I think that using the Kodak film stock there, if it's hyper visualizing the colors, then that ultimately adds to the entire package there you're
yeah,
getting there, and makes it a cohesive piece of art, I think.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
got what they were going for. I thought all of that worked very well. There was just other parts that didn't land for
yeah.
me.
And a lot of this too was shot on set and stage as well. So a lot of this stuff was practicals too. Not a lot of the scenery in the backgrounds and whatnot,
Yeah,
but yeah, a lot of it was more practical too,
right.
on hand, which is what I really enjoy too. And speaking of Phantom Menace, it is coming back to theaters, guys, and we'll be reviewing it on Fatherly Channel
25th
here.
anniversary. That's
Yeah,
right.
can't believe that. Totally different type of film than this. Um, but yeah, I very much appreciate when people go back to basics with that. I know Christopher Nolan's very much into IMAX as well, in filming in IMAX, and I just, there's something about celluloid and just the look and the feel and the texture of it. You can't beat. The digital still cannot beat that for my
Right.
money.
Yeah, I
So
think that it would be interesting to give Christopher Nolan the job of creating one of these type of films, or give him, an Alice in Wonderland type of story. How would he
maybe
create?
we'll get one of those. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because all of his films are, have a sense of gritty reality to them, right? So he's
Hmm.
never really done a movie that requires him to go in a fantastical sort of environment. So if he ever did one, how would he accomplish that? Because he, like you said,
Yeah.
he's the real deal. He's the practical effects guy. So I
Yep.
think it'd be pretty interesting.
I think it would be too. So, all right, this is the time of the show, guys, where we try to build the connection on the last movie. So, I did
Yeah.
find another connection between Barbie
I was wondering how you're going to
and
do it this
Poor
week.
Things. This was a stretch, though. So there is a
Oh man.
connection, but it takes it's a leap connection. It's a leapfrog. Can you guess what that
Okay.
leap is?
So
That
meaning that like
dancing
there's
leap?
something in the middle, kind of it
Yep.
goes to one thing, goes to from
Yeah.
Barbie to this. So Barbie stars Margot Robbie, who's been in a ton of stuff. Um, and
Yeah.
she's been Harley Quinn in a superhero movie, and Mark Ruffalo's been Bruce Banner slash Hulk in a superhero movie.
That could be one connection. There's a simpler one
Yeah.
though. Who we got as Ken in Barbie?
Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Oh,
Okay.
Ryan
And
Gosling. What other movie starred Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone that did pretty well at the Academy Awards
La
previously?
La Land. There you go.
La La Land. There you go. There's
Okay. We
our
got our line.
connection. Yeah. So those are
Yeah.
that's
That's a
our
good one. That's
connection.
a pretty, it should have been more obvious to me. So yeah, very
I
good.
thought you were gonna get it. I thought you were gonna get it, buddy. But that's the
We were
fun
headed
of
that
doing this
way.
little segment. We were getting to that.
Yeah,
So there you go. That's our
absolutely.
connection from the last one. So do we have any more final thoughts before we dive into our rating of this Academy nominated Best Picture, maybe,
Yeah.
movie called Poor Things?
No, I don't think so. We've talked about Best Actress here. We've talked about Best Original Soundtrack. So we will see what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as, well, so after the rating, we'll go into whether or not we think it's Best Picture.
Yeah, and we can put it alongside the movies that we have seen already and see where it stacks
Sure.
up.
Rank them
Which is
out.
cool
Yeah.
because we're getting stacks now. So this is great. As
The
we
last
are
film that
diving
we
into our
review, where
analysis.
this section is going to take a half hour.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So buckle your seatbelts.
Yeah. So for me, um, even without being like you said, a fan of the film that likes it enough to rewatch it, um, if somebody asked me to watch this movie with them, I would not say no. I would not do it in the theaters, but I, would watch it on a TV that I have the volume control. But
Not with kids.
yeah, I would say that this movie and Barbie are telling essentially the same story. And I liked Barbie's telling of it more, but I also don't think that Barbie went as far as this film could. They definitely can't show Barbie as a prostitute. So I think this movie had the opportunity to tell a more well-rounded story of a woman being liberated. And so, in that regard, I'll place it higher than Barbie. American Fiction. So I'm going to go Killers of Flower Moon, Poor Things, Barbie, American Fiction. How about you?
We want to do our ratings first, though.
Oh, sorry. Rating, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's hard to compare some of these movies together for the ones that we have for Best Picture. It's only going to get worse as it goes along.
I know.
But taking it as this movie is, I think that there is some value in watching it. I don't think I am going to go back and watch it. Like you said, like if somebody wanted to watch it with me, I probably would. Definitely would not with kids. But at the same time, there's visually striking things. There's great performances. Emma Stone does an amazing job. I think it's worth it just to see her do this role and what she was able to accomplish with this character. I think that it was worth it for that.
Right.
Again, I thought they went a little too far with some of the sex scenes and everything else. So I could have done without that. A lot of that
Even
stuff.
some of the violence, just like, why did we need that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots of violence in here. And it makes me question too, like a lot of the other movies I like. I like a lot of action movies with violence. I was like, how is that better than this? I was like, how is that any different than this? And
right.
I still don't know. But this is one of the nice things about a movie is it helps you kind of reevaluate your biases and why you like certain things and why things hit you differently and what makes you uncomfortable. And so this movie did a lot of that. It did a lot of the legwork and kind of making me think of things in a new way or feeling certain ways. And a lot of that was uncomfortable and strange and an interesting ride. So for that, I'll have to give this a 7 out of 10. Because of the performances and the amazing visuals. I love the visuals and how the film looked. and what it put me through. You know, it was a weird, wild journey.
Yeah.
And wow, okay, cool. But for me, I'm probably not going to rate it as high on the scale of movies. Killers of the Flower Moon is definitely still number one for me. I still like American Fiction better than this movie. So I would say Poor Things would probably be a third, and a close fourth would be Barbie. So that's my ranking right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
So
Makes
Killers of the
sense.
Flower Moon, American Fiction, Poor Things, Barbie.
Yeah.
I don't think that this film will probably take Best Picture. But again,
Yeah.
we still got some more movies to tackle here. Who
Yeah.
knows? They
Well,
might all be stinkers, or they might all be even better.
and I think it's going to be a tough choice because you got a lot of extra things, to consider with the decision.
Yeah.
So do the Academy members take into account that we might have just seen the last Martin Scorsese movie ever?
Yeah.
Do they take
Yeah.
into account that John Williams might have scored his last movie ever?
I think that they
And
are taking that into account.
right. So do they get a sort of a legacy type vote?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they take into account the fact that Barbie was so popular? They generally shy away from the more blockbuster type popular movies, but not always. Heath Ledger wins, but unfortunately, Heath Ledger also died, and so it was a posthumous award. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who wins. I couldn't predict it at this point, and like you said, we've got 6 films. We've got a lot to go. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a tough decision.
It is, but it's fun to watch. It's fun to get out there, and we like to watch a lot of nerdy and fun things on this channel. But getting out of that comfort zone and watching all the highbrow pictures for once, it's been a fun experience so far. So we'll see if I continue to feel that way, or if it becomes
I know we have not watched the Nazi movie yet. We have not watched the dead boyfriend movie yet. So yeah.
Oh God.
And the murder movie, right? There's a crime drama coming up. So yeah, there's a lot left.
I might actually like that. I like crime drama. So
yeah. I'm hoping that I'm talking about Anatomy of a Fall, and I hope that it's a good mystery. I've been kind of jonesing for one of those lately, and thinking of Killers of the Flower Moon is like, I kind of wish that it had been more mysterious. I'm glad it was the movie that it was, and I wouldn't change it, but I'm hoping for a little bit of a murder mystery. Hopefully, Anatomy of a Fall delivers that, but we will see. So
yeah, we will. So next up for us here on Fatherly Fandom for the Academy Run Reviews, Oscar Film Odyssey Fan Flight of Fancy.
You nailed it. First try. Look
filling
at
that. the Casa Dojo Mojo House of Fun. We're gonna be taking on. We're finally gonna do it, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. We're gonna be taking on Oppenheimer. I cannot wait. So you guys definitely need to join us on Friday. What time are we going to be doing it? Like 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and midnight for all you guys on the East Coast. Sorry about that, guys. But it's going to be a good show. I can't wait to talk about that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely join us for that. And Matt, where can they find you on the internet?
Well, on the internet, I would say through Fatherly Fandom. At all sorts of places.
Man doesn't even have a social media account. Like he's
he's
off the grid, guys. You can't catch him anywhere.
But yeah, check us out at fatherlyfandom.com, at Twitch, at TikTok, on Facebook, X, and which is the one I'm missing? It's the obvious one. Well, yeah, I didn't say Threads. That's
And the
true,
most
but
obvious one, YouTube.
YouTube.
Our primary one.
Yeah,
Probably where you're watching this from. Well, there's a lot of people watching on
probably.
Twitch too, so yeah.
Yeah.
But you can catch us on all that. Just look up Fatherly Phantom. That's our main thing, and you can see it on here. That's all here. So you can catch us on that stuff. Please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. We're gonna post an edited video of this stream right here on YouTube later on. So you'll have that. We'll be doing Oppenheimer later on, and then we still got to decide what we're gonna do next Monday, because we're gonna be coming back
What's
again
coming up on Monday?
next Monday. But we'll talk about that, and we'll get you guys all straightened out. And Matt, Bad Batch is coming next week, and we're doing a live watch party at midnight on Tuesday. Will you be able to join us?
I've got a lot of catching up to do, some more Yorgos Lanthimos.
If you were able to watch all those damn Yorgos movies
with the subtitles on.
Yeah. If you were able to do that,
I'm not able to binge through 2 seasons of Bad Batch catch up. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
But we will be doing a watch party for that, so you guys are definitely welcome to join for that. I'm going to be doing a mini little, like I did last season for Bad Batch. We'll do like a mini little breakdown review video for that on Wednesdays or Thursdays. So that'll be a lot of fun. There's 3 episodes premiering on that and this is the final season too. Hell of a good show too. Like, Matt, you don't know what you're missing, especially season 2. Freaking some of those stories.
Yeah.
Film quality, I gotta say. They look in the art in those stunning. So I don't know.
It's gotta catch me. It's gotta hook me in. I haven't been hooked yet.
Stick with it. Stick with it. Not Your Status Quo says it too. So come on, Matt, watch it.
I've tried. I have not I have not said no.
So much praise. Everybody is loving Bad Batch. So we'll see about that. And we got Phantom Menace coming out, 25th anniversary. I still can't believe it's been 25 freaking years since the Phantom Menace came out.
Makes me feel, I don't know though. I saw that for my birthday party when I was a kid though, so at least I can say that. At least I can say it was still very
a teenager.
Young.
Yeah. I remember, so my stepdad actually took me out of school, and we went and saw Phantom Menace one day.
I think that is what we ended up doing too. I think me and there was like 5 other kids that went. I don't think we went to school that day because of the crowds and the lines and all that. And my mom got tickets early. I could be remembering that wrong, but I do remember it being an event. It was crazy.
Yeah. It definitely was. So, and for me, like, I've always been a Star Wars fan, and so I just loved every minute of it, even though it gets a lot of criticism nowadays and whatnot, and it definitely does have its flaws. I very much enjoyed it. But we'll talk more about
pod race on the big screen is worth it, no matter what you think of the movie.
That makes me wonder. It's like, will they do the extended pod race for the theatrical re-release or not? Or
kind of like they did in the 90s, releasing the special editions in theaters. It'd be interesting to see if they do it. So
we'll see what they do. If they do it, or they bring it back the old puppet Yoda. That god awful thing,
Frank Oz, and
it's like what is this creature? It's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Not Your Status Quo. Oh, QRM Production says they had a quarter of a century to fix it. Oh,
great point. Great point.
That is true. Lots of time.
You can catch the 90-minute Jar Jar free version on YouTube right now if you go look it up.
Or the 3-hour Jar Jar extended edition, which is what.
If you're a Jar Jar fan, there you go.
Let's do it. I love Jar Jar. Yeah. Don't hate me, but I love him. All right, guys. That's it from us. I got to get some sleep. I was working all night. Matt was sleeping, so he's fresh as a daisy over there. I'm wilting like a dried out flower. Just dying.
We can all tell.
Yeah, I know. Y'all probably can. Ooh. What is it? Not Your Status Quo says Darth Jar Jar Sith cult. Yeah, that's a great
Sid
theory.
cut.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sid cut. Cult. I'll be a part of
All
that
right.
and watch that cut as well. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. And until next time, have a good one. Get some sleep.